We are Team Pennant Innovations from the University of Michigan School of Information, and this is our presentation on G2 Crowd for SI 622, Needs Assessment and Usability Evaluation. G2 Crowd is a web-based business software review platform devoted to providing unfiltered, unbiased reviews from independent, authenticated users of business software. This semester, we assessed the usability of G2 Crowd's website by conducting a series of user experience research studies, including an interaction map, user interviews, a comparative analysis, a survey, a heuristic evaluation, and usability testing. First, in order to strengthen our understanding of G2 Crowd as a whole, we mapped out the key features of the website. This interaction map allowed us to visualize the common paths that G2 Crowd's users follow when they use the website. Next, to learn more about G2 Crowd's users and their perceptions of G2 Crowd, we interviewed 5 G2 Crowd users from various job roles and industries. Based on our interviews, we developed 3 distinct user personas: the software buyer, the competitive analyst, and the executive. These personas helped us to identify the various needs and goals of G2 Crowd's users, which nuanced our research questions and informed our direction for the rest of the project. To get a sense of how G2 Crowd stacks up against its competitors, we performed a comparative analysis, taking into account G2 Crowd's 6 direct competitors. We also considered partial, indirect, parallel, and analogous competitors. To perform the analysis, we came up with 6 units for comparison, including help and assistance, analytics, cross-platform compatibility, search, product information, and reviews and reviewers. We then evaluated each competitor using criteria within these 6 categories. To learn about the behavior and experience of G2 Crowd's users from a larger number of users, we conducted a survey. We started by identifying 4 overarching research questions for the survey, and then created the survey questions using Qualtrics software. We first piloted our survey among 50 users, and then distributed the finalized survey to a pool of 821 users from all over the world. The results of the survey showed that a significant portion of users used G2 Crowd to find information about general product categories or to compare different products. In addition, some users also found the visualizations of product ratings difficult to understand, specifically the radar graphs and the distribution graphs. We then conducted a heuristic evaluation of the entire G2 Crowd website using Nielsen's 10 heuristics for user interface design. After conducting individual heuristic evaluations, we compiled our findings and assigned severity ratings to each finding using Nielsen's severity ratings for usability problems. We selected our key findings from the findings with the highest average severity ratings. Finally, in order to assess the difficulty of common tasks on G2 Crowd's website, we conducted usability tests with 7 non-users of G2 Crowd. We designed 4 tasks for participants to perform and measured their successes and difficulties in completing those tasks. Each usability test was conducted face-to-face with a moderator, and the user's actions and responses were recorded using QuickTime screen and audio recording. In summary, our interaction map, user interviews, comparative analysis, survey, heuristic evaluation, and usability testing provided us with a number of valuable findings, 4 of which we have identified as overall key findings.
Now, after going over the methods used in this study, we'll move to the findings and recommendations. Our first finding is about the content. Though users were pleased with the amount of information available, they think that there is too much content and too many functions on many of the web pages. One user, after opening a product page, exclaimed, "Whoa, there's a lot going on here." As you can see in this slide, there are multiple functions and too much content on the page. Our recommendation is to reorganize and reduce the amount of information on the page to make it easier for users to understand. Specifically, prioritize content and put important content at the top, reduce the amount of content, remove any redundant content, and reduce the number of functions. As you can see in this slide, the G2 Crowd webpage is on the left, and Capterra, a direct competitor of G2 Crowd, is on the right. You can see the difference in the number of functions and the amount of content on the pages. Capterra's is cleaner, there's more white space, and it's clearer and easier to understand. Our second finding is about site navigation, specifically breadcrumbs. we found that missing and inconsistent use of breadcrumbs makes it difficult for users to know where their position is on the website. As you can see on the product reviews page, there are no breadcrumbs to help a user identify their location. On this page, there are breadcrumbs, but they are very difficult to see, so users may not find them. Our recommendation is to provide a visually intuitive, location-based breadcrumb navigation for easy discoverability, as shown in this example. Our next finding, finding 3, is about the comparison feature. Although the product comparison feature is a crucial function of G2 Crowd, users have great difficulty using it because it is not intuitive. First, users are confused by the changing nature of the Add to Compare buttons. When users select products for comparison, the function of these buttons changes twice, making it unclear what the buttons actually do. On the product comparison page, users have a hard time interpreting the green and gray bar graphs. Several users mentioned that they were confused about the gray bars because they looked disabled. Also, when users add or remove products for a comparison, the URL of the page changes. So when users try to navigate to the previous page with the browser's back button, they don't actually go back to the previous page. Our recommendation is to restructure the comparison feature. We recommend that G2 Crowd restructure the comparison feature by implementing a global box or cart system that keeps track of products selected for comparison. This cart would always be accessible to users as they navigate through G2 Crowd's website and would allow them to add or remove products for comparison at any time. In addition, we recommend that G2 Crowd use a different color scheme for the comparison bar graphs to help users understand more clearly which products are ranked higher in each comparison category. G2 Crowd uses several types of visualizations to help users understand data from reviews and ratings. However, for finding 4, we found that users often struggle to understand these visualizations. For example, G2 Crowd uses a radar graph to show how one review compares with all other reviews for a product. Users tend to assume that these axes are related somehow, as if the axes are pushing and pulling each other. On the G2 Crowd grid, some users do not understand what the labels on the axes and in the quadrants mean, and how they relate to a product's position on the grid. We recommend that G2 Crowd simplify and clearly label their graphs to help users understand the data being displayed. For example, instead of using a radar graph to compare ratings from a single review with average ratings for all users, G2 Crowd could use a bar graph to portray the data more simply. For the grid, we recommend that G2 Crowd label both ends of the X and Y axes and remove the quadrant labels to clearly indicate levels of satisfaction.
While our assessment of G2 Crowd yielded valuable insights, it also had a few limitations that are worth mentioning. First, for our user interviews, we had limited access to our target audience of software buyers, which resulted in a skewed user sample. Second, although our survey was distributed to 821 people, we were only able to collect 38 responses, resulting in a small user sample. As a next step following this study, we suggest that G2 Crowd review our findings and recommendations and validate them using A/B testing. Finally, we would like to thank G2 Crowd for partnering with us and being so responsive and helpful throughout this semester. We would also like to thank our instructional team for their guidance and feedback throughout this study.